What should have been the ask of this crossing? Let's not forget, the original idea for this was to alleviate the pressure at the current crossing between Dartford and Thurrock. Instead, instead of the more obvious question, which should have been, how do we improve traffic movements north and south of the Thames, east of London? That question would have more likely been relevant at the time and produced a decent set of crossings east of Tower Bridge to the current crossing, and then one further on past Thurrock to create perhaps another London bypass or even another London Ring Road. However, this is not the time to say what the question was wrong about, what was wrong about the question. It's not time to say no and just hope it goes away, and if it doesn't, just to play politics. This is about a constructive response to saying why we feel that this is not right for Thurrock. Now, I've taken up a lot of time tonight on each point of Highways England. For instance, moving the goalposts when it comes to consultation, when it comes to deadlines, changing deadlines to the local authority, saying one thing in one meeting and saying something somewhere else, even suggesting that it was me personally that has something to do with a beluga whale that may actually cause some problems as we go forward. It's true, I kid you not. But you will note from the report from our consultants, Peter Brett Associates, the drastic shortfalls of Highways England's plan. And again, I could take up probably the rest of the night going item by item, but I really can't. So I'll just highlight a few. Tilbury Link Road. It is not clear from the evidence presented within the consultation materials why the proposed connections to the Port of Tilbury has been removed and options testing not provided. This is clearly contrary to the National Network's National Planning Policy Statement of encouraging trade and attracting investment. Not my words, Pete Brett's. Health impacts. The preliminary environmental information report, or PEER, doesn't contain a standalone assessment of human health impacts. Nowhere in the report is it simply outlined. It's spread across many chapters. Indeed, they don't even define human health. How can they say that they are doing their best to limit the impacts when they don't even define what human health is? They literally will end up comparing what they like to whenever they like and how they feel. Again, Highways England not assessed the road links where there's a change of more than 1,000 annual average daily traffic movements. But when you check further in the report from Pete Brett, it says the Institute of Air Quality Management suggests that that number should be halved or indeed reduced by a factor of 10 to give an air impact assessment whether that air impacts quality management area is in place. They're using outdated figures for vehicle emissions from DEFRA. And issue I could carry on all night about the impacts on the environment, ancient monuments, lack of waste management strategy for the millions of tonnes of earth that's going to be moved, vibrations, traffic modelling, and again, this list itself goes on and on. However, Appendix B is the consultation response we are looking to agree tonight, as that will be the response that government will need to look at to see why we're saying no to this diabolical idea. I know all members have had the opportunity to discuss this with officers and the hope where they need to have had that opportunity to take that up. Again, I'm not going to to read the entire 20 pages of document response out, so I know everyone's taken the time to do that. And I feel that it covers the points that we as a local authority need to cover to make clear this is not NIMBYism, this isn't scaremongering, this isn't just saying no for no's sake, this is clear evidence response and states that this chamber remains opposed to the Lower Thames Crossing and sets out the reasons why we are opposed. I've just been given the speed it up Councillor Gayfield, so I will cut pretty much to my last statement. When I started, it was just us, the MPs, and indeed the good people of the Lower Thames Crossing Action Group that seemed to be opposed. That's now expanded. Gravesham against. Southend made clear that the proposal is not fit for purpose. Castle Point saying the same. Opportunity South Essex, sharing a number of our concerns. Thurrock Business Board, again, against. This isn't NIMBYism, this is realism. These objections need to be done, and I hope every single member will carry on supporting this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daisy. I'll now move to Councillor Peter Smith as Chair of the Lower Thames Crossing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And just briefly on the back of Rob's presentation, can I just add that there were another 9 comments from last night's Lower Thames task force meeting that will be worked into the response. After thousands of hours of work by members and officers and our expert consultants, we're here tonight. What we have before us is exhaustive and detailed, and I believe it supports the opinion of all 49 councillors in their continued opposition. Throughout the process, the consensus of the task force is that Highways England have been unhelpful at worst and unimpressive at best. Today's questions and queries raised by officers and the task force alike were numerous. This didn't make life easy for us in the task force as we battled and struggled to get information on time. This report goes to extraordinary lengths, and like Rob, I'm not going to go through line by line, but I just really would like to draw members' attention to page 15, two specific items. 3.5 item 2 and 3.6 item 1. The consultation material has substantial information gaps, inaccurate assessments and under-reporting of impacts. The consultation scheme does not meet several of the National and Highways England's own strategic policy tests and scheme objectives, particularly relating to option testing, as mentioned by Councillor Clearfield, and the delivery of economic growth and achieving substantial growth. We know the history of the crossings here. The Western Wall was built in '63, and 17 years later the Eastern Wall came along because it could not cope. 11 years later the QE2 bridge was built because we could not cope with the traffic. And 27 years later we're here tonight, and by the time this scheme, if it goes ahead, is built in a decade, it will be 37 years since anything has been done to deal with this problem of the traffic congestion. I suggest this proposal is already out of date by a long shot. And to sum up, for members and residents in the gallery, in summary, Highways England's consultation is full of holes, delivers little or nothing in the way of social and economic growth. Madam Mayor, Highways England need to take away their proposals, have a hard look at themselves, listen to our residents, and think of the people of Thurrock as more than a number on a spreadsheet.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. And now I'd like to move to Linda Mully, who's a resident representative on the Lower Thames Crossing Task Force. Would you like to speak on this report? Thank you.
Not so much about the report, but overall. I'm reminded of the saying, Nero fiddled while Rome burned. Having sat on the task force for more than a year, I think at times there's been some similarities to Thurrock Council's response to Highways England's proposals for a Lower Thames crossing through our borough. The saying comes from where a great fire ravaged Rome, destroying 70% of the city and leaving half of its population homeless and its people suffering. This time not Rome, but Thurrock, where Highways England proposals will destroy huge areas of green belt, agricultural and environmentally sensitive and historic sites. The loss of hundreds of acres that could be used for building much needed housing will leave many of its population, and most vulnerable, without homes in years to come, and the quality of life irreversibly damaged with the levels of pollution in its many forms this 6-lane motorway will bring. Sadly, at task force, on occasions in the early days, I witnessed party one-upmanship take precedence over fighting the principal enemy here, these Highways England proposals. The fact that after 16 months plus there was still no agreed local plan shows that some of our leaders have been incapable of debating and negotiating an agreement for the good of the people they have been elected to represent. I hope from now on we witness a truly united resolve by every councillor, regardless of party, to use their contacts, office and determination to prevent Highways England from gaining final approval for this flawed and destructive plan. Nero is historically remembered as an ineffectual leader in a time of great crisis. Let's not this Thurrock Council be remembered in generations to come for the same damning indictment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would Laura Blake, representative from the Lower Thames Crossing Action Group, like to speak?
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Mayor for this opportunity to speak this evening and all that were involved in bringing all the items to the agenda this evening. A special thanks to the officers and team working on the Lower Thames Crossing response for all the time and work they have put in. We all know that the time has been extremely limited since Highways England will not allow a long enough consultation period for everyone to be able to respond adequately. We all know that the Lower Thames Crossing and consultation is full of inadequacies. The Dartford Crossing will still be over capacity even if LTC opens. There are not adequate connections to and from the LTC, which will cause issues on a daily basis. We all know about the detour along the A13 to the Stamford Junction, for example. It is questionable, to say the least, that Highways England have not taken into account how traffic will migrate between the two crossings when there is an incident, which again will cause more chaos, congestion and pollution. We know there are numerous errors within the consultation documents that are both misleading and confusing. Errors have also been made in the letters that Highways England have been sending to residents and businesses, including many residents that are not directly impacted, yet have still received letters from Highways England telling them that they are losing their homes. This is not acceptable. I am yet to speak to anyone who can give us a single true benefit to the people of Thurrock, or anywhere along and around the route, or indeed in the areas that are impacted by the Dartford Crossing, bearing in mind the current crossing will still be over capacity. We know that the £6.8 billion plus cost that will now purely be down to taxpayers, but what about the additional cost to our lives, health, homes, communities, greenbelt, farmland, forests, etc.? The cost to everyone's physical and mental health and well-being. We deserve better, and that is what we must demand. As well as the items on the agenda tonight, we have still over just a week to keep spreading the word, getting as many of the real facts and impacts out there, and encouraging everyone we can to take part in the consultation before it ends on December the 20th. Please do all you can to keep spreading the word. Every single response counts. I know all 49 of you stand together in your opposition to the Lower Thames Crossing, and we hope that this continues to be the case for this and everything that strengthens and supports the case against the proposed Lower Thames Crossing, as it is critically important to each and every person in Thurrock and along the entire Lower Thames Crossing route that our concerns are heard and action is taken to ensure the best possible outcome for us and future generations. Together we are stronger.
Thank you very much for that. I understand Wesley Mercer, representative from Thurrock Business Board, is unavailable to attend this evening. Would Peter Ward, representative from the Port of Tilbury, like to speak on this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As business representative for the Port of Tilbury, I represent one of the largest employers in Thurrock. We directly or indirectly employ some 8,500 people. This will rise to 11,000 people should we gain consent for our port extension in the new year. We have given serious consultation to the Lower Thames Crossing consultation, and currently we are opposed to the scheme in the form that has been released for consultation. This is particularly due to the omission of the Tilbury Link Road from the plans, a position which Thurrock Council consultation response we also know supports as well. From a business perspective, we find it inconceivable that one of the UK's largest ports will not have adequate connectivity to the Lower Thames Crossing. Port connectivity is supported by the government, most notably the Department for Transport, which is the sponsor of Highways England, who did their own connectivity study earlier this year, which was published, which stressed the importance of connectivity between the strategic road network and UK ports and airports. We also do not believe the Lower Thames Crossing meets the test required under the National Networks policy. The Lower Thames Crossing is appraised within its own published business case against 7 key objectives, which I will just read out to you. The first of these are economic, the first one being to support sustainable local development and regional economic growth in the medium to long term. The reduction of the Tilbury Link Road greatly detracts from that in particular. The second point is to be affordable to the government and users. The third is to achieve value for money. If you look at the Tilbury Link Road in terms of the budget for the Lower Thames Crossing, it represents some 2 to 3% of the overall budget were it to be included, for example. On community environment, it is to minimise the impacts on health and the environment, and in terms of transport, it is to relieve the congested Dartford crossing and approach roads and improve the performance by providing free-flowing north-south capacity. It's also to improve the resilience of the Thames crossings and the major road network, and overall to improve safety. Having analysed these, we believe the reinstatement of the Tilbury Link Road would greatly assist in meeting a number of these scheme objectives. This view is further supported by a number of other businesses, many of them within the port, and a number of other prominent business-related groups, including the South East LEP, OSE, Invest Essex and the Port of London Authority, to name but a few. We will be submitting a full response to the Lower Thames Crossing, which will be submitted next week, which will address our response on all of these points. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kieran, I now move to you as Chair of Planning, Transport and Regen Overview and Scrutiny. Do you wish to speak?
Speak, Madam Mayor, thank you. This will be very brief because the message is very, very clear. We need a crossing, just not this crossing. Time and time again we've stood united and said no. All 49 members, with our residents behind us, saying no. Highways England have treated our borough, our home, with contempt. For too long now, this flawed Lower Thames Crossing has been hanging over us like a sword of Damocles. Its shadow looms large over the future of our borough. When we looked at the draft local plan earlier, we saw visibly the line of the proposed route ripping through the homes and land of our borough. So, just in case Highways England are slow to understand, we in Thurrock are not NIMBYs. We know that a crossing is needed, but this is the wrong crossing in the wrong place. And that's just all I need to say, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor John Kent, do you wish to speak?
Madam Mayor, we've been debating this crossing or variation on this crossing for the best part of 10 years now. And I think we've all kind of been anticipating the time when Highways England actually brought forward their final route proposals. We remember they whittled down the first, 5 possible routes to 3, waited and waited, consulted on 3, then it was down to 2, and then it was down to 1. But I don't think any of us really believed that when the final preferred route was published, that it would be quite as bad as the route that we're looking at today. And I think each of us will have our own particular issue with what's planned, with what's here in front of us. Be it the rest area of East Tilbury, the fact that we have a mainly 3-lane motorway going through the borough, but with stretches where it's reduced to 2 lanes, so that you build in bottlenecks. It could be those 6-metre-high embankments at the back of Chapel St Mary within just a few hundred yards of people's homes. Or it could be the lack of the Tilbury Link Road that we've already spoken about, which means something like an 8-kilometre diversion for people wanting to get to Tilbury. But you know, in a strange sort of way, I think that to concentrate on any of those misses the point. And the point is just pretty fundamental. This is just the wrong crossing in the wrong place. It does nothing to ease the huge congestion that we suffer here in Thurrock on a regular basis. It doesn't add to the resilience of the local, the regional or the national road network. In fact, it will increase traffic, it will increase congestion, and it will hugely impact on air quality in this borough. And absolutely fundamentally, it destroys huge areas of our green belt. It creates an environmental and ecological disaster that we will have to live with here for generations to come. And finally, Madam Mayor, this road, this monstrosity, splits our borough in 2 and risks creating 2 separate communities that are isolated from each other by this road. This is something that we cannot live with. and I urge everybody to support the recommendations before them tonight.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Spillman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to echo some of the very well-made points by other members. Like most members in this chamber, I regard myself as an environmentalist. And no person with any regard for the borough of Thurrock's environment can possibly look at this plan and see anything other than a catastrophe if we allow this to go ahead as it's planned. Now, I'd like to thank, there's been a lot of work put into this report, so I'd really like to thank the director, the assistant director, and all the task force, the resident representation on the task force as well. Now, I'm on the militant side of the opposition towards this technology, and I would like to see, after we stick this consultation in, you don't stop projects like this without a significant body of residents making themselves very heard. And we've got some wonderful groups in this borough that are doing everything they can. And I would like to see the council look at providing some more logistical and maybe financial support to these groups, because we can do the legal side of it, but at the end of the day, politicians will be making these decisions. And we need to have enough noise generated from Thurrock, from the people of Thurrock, to put a little bit of fear into it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gerard Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, there is an alternative. I was approached some 18 months ago. There is a Chinese consortium that have written to the government. Can they get a meeting with the government? No. Who wants to meet them? You have the chief executive and chairman of the Chinese State Railway Company want to invest £8 billion to bring a crossing across from Kent to Essex at Canby, to bring it up on the A130, and all they want in return are the tolls for a number of years. Now, I think it's pretty appalling that this group of business people cannot get near a government minister. If a meeting was held, the proposals are on the table, and what it would do, it would not just be a rail, a road link, it would be a rail and road. Now, Councillor Spillman talked about the environment. Well, the first thing we've got to do to get our environment back to something approaching good, so people can breathe, is take the heavy trucks off the road and onto a railway system. And that's what we should be doing. We should be going back to them days before another government in the 60s broke our railways up. These are history lessons, but we are paying the consequences for them. And there is, as I say, a £7.5 billion cheque from this Chinese state railway company willing to invest in our country at no expense to the Exchequer, to take the traffic away from the M25. It would come up onto the A130. The A130, as we all know, is being extended around the back of Chelmsford by Essex County Council by a government grant, which will link up with the A120, which in turn links up with the M11. You then link up with the A14, which is being free-laned, straight into Birmingham. And there you hit the powerhouse of the Midlands. And that's where a lot of the traffic would like to go. We don't want to put more traffic onto the M25. We all know to our cost it's the National Car Park. And all I plead this evening is that the Conservative members reach out to their government and provide this meeting, because there is a solution, and the solution is on the table, and it has been presented to senior members and to senior officers in this council.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Councillor Apothecary.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I welcome the consultation response, and I am pleased to see that Thurrock Council is reiterating our absolute opposition to this scheme. As our consultation response clearly states, there are no measures that could mitigate the devastating impact this motorway will have on our borough and our health. I sit on the cross-party task force, and it's gratifying to see that many of the concerns and thorny issues we have identified have been included in the response. The response exposes the weakness of the Lower Thames Crossing proposal and the sheer arrogance of Highways England. I would like to take a moment to thank the residents' representatives Linda and Laura for their really valuable and poignant contributions to the task force. Their hard work, tenacity and dedication should be applauded. I will be voting in favour of the motion and I encourage everyone else to do so.
Thank you. Councillor Little.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to just go back to, I've been looking at this crossing since 2006, and obviously it's devastating, and I'm going to be a bit of a nimby about my own ward, because, you know, it really is going to be devastating, not only for the whole of Thurrock, but what Highways England are trying to do. Baldwin Fen, for instance, is a national beauty space, it is fenland. It's going to actually, with this elevated proposal, will actually cause so much light pollution, etc. It's totally unacceptable. Also at Showground, for instance, if we went along with Highways England, the community would be cut away from actually a local asset. Baker Street is going to be like Spaghetti Junction. Air pollution, light pollution, is going to be seen right across the borough. There's going to be no access for local residents to use. Spoils from the construction site. Where the hell are they going to put all of that? You know, all this earth that's going to be contaminated, etc. Construction site at the end of Baker Street, you know, a village. What they're going to do is none of the vehicles there are regulated by the same laws as our vehicles are, and therefore red diesel fumes and God knows what, as Mr Mullins was saying tonight, will be, you know, just put out onto the local area where there is wind that actually will waft it over towards different clays in the other part of the western borough, which would be absolutely awful. But going back to Councillor Rice's point of view about the Chinese, I was a little bit involved in some of these meetings, and one of the things the Chinese ambassador said to these two gentlemen who were proposing this crossing, which actually is a good idea, but he actually said what he needed them to do was to go out and design it, which they hadn't done totally. So that is one of the reasons why it was failing. And, you know, my own MP went and spoke to them as well. So there has been some, you know, chat backwards and forwards, but the Chinese embassy themselves have said, you know, lovely idea, but we actually need a proper proposal and proper drawings, which they wouldn't do. So that is one of the points about that. But I would actually welcome it to be more to the east of the borough, east of Essex. Thank you.
Councillor Roccanardi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So according to the recommendation 1.1 of this report, it is very right that we continue to oppose the Lower Thames Crossing in Thurrock. During our Children's Overground Scrutiny meeting last week, we received an update on the free school sites, particularly land lying to the northwest of Stanford Road, Grace, and which is currently earmarked for Offset Eat Academy. Air quality is a serious issue. The level of pollution to the close proximity of school accommodating many children should be prevented and should be strongly highlighted to Highways England. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redzel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll try not to speak too long because everybody wants to say tonight. I just feel that it's good actually to see us all 49 of us on the same song sheet as with the MPs. I think the pollution that it's going to be great for, it's going to be worse for Thurrock. Highways England keep telling us it's going to bring us jobs and everything else, but I don't think it does. And also the blight that it's putting on residents already by the red line keep being moved, and as Councillor Pinado said, that it's the schools, it's affecting the schools that are going to go up now. The red line keeps changing, so we don't know where we are. The rugby club is affected, everybody, especially in our ward in Blackshots, the red line keeps moving, so we don't know where we are. And I just think that we've got to remember that residents at the moment, I've got a few members that one man's had a heart attack with it because he just doesn't know where his house will be. And I think we've got a lot of residents out there who just don't know what's going to happen, and it's worrying to them, selling their house, if they can sell their house, because of what's happening. So I think it's good that we're all on the same song sheet, and we don't want the pollution and we don't want the road. Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to stick away from the facts and figures that are in the consultation responses. They're all quite clear and I agree with all of them. I'd just like to simply say a few words about how I and the residents feel. When I became member for housing, one of the first ideas I wanted to bring forward was to ensure our housing allocation policy was based on our residents' needs. A word that roughly translates to requiring something because it's essential or very important rather than just desirable. So I'd like to apply that logic with our residents' needs in relation to this proposal. I represent a beautiful rural ward, and none of the residents I have spoken to believe a 6-lane scar on our countryside to be essential, important, or certainly not desirable. And not because we're all NIMBYs, just that we cannot see any need for this, as it will not bring any benefit to our residents. In fact, it would encase us all in a triangle of toxic fumes. The road, in Highways England's own words, will very soon become over capacity, and in my opinion, could simply make the M25 Dartford Crossing an even bigger temporary car park. We're told that many hours of traffic management matrix have been studied, but I'm sorry, logic alone tells you that a new road that joins the M25 so close to the root of the problem, i.e. the Dartford Crossing, will simply become part of the problem, with the tailback going back past the new road exit within minutes, therefore bringing nothing to Thurrock other than a rat run through Thurrock. Our essential and important need is to be able to breathe the best air possible, and for our children to continue in the future to breathe the best air. And unfortunately Thurrock already is not the best, so let's not pollute that air even more with this road and fight its existence with everything we can muster. So please do not forget to complete your individual consultation papers and get them sent off. Thank you.
Councillor Worrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I agree with many in here, everybody in here tonight, that this is the wrong crossing in the wrong place. My concerns, of which there are many, include the failure of Highways England to carry out a standalone health assessment on the effects during the construction and the potential health effects on those living near the crossing should it go ahead, of which I hope it doesn't. It's a myth that our breathing is not going to be affected because the traffic will be moving. Just look at the health data of Tilbury residents. We don't have traffic jams, but we do indeed have the Dock Approach Road. Residents living near the crossing can look forward to COPD, bronchial issues, rising levels of asthma, and 10 years shaved off of your life expectancy. The last part that I need to say tonight will be controversial in the chamber, but I'm going to say it anyway because I may not get another chance. The 12,000 plus residents of Tilbury, of which I am one, do not want to see the link road reinstated. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be fairly brief. My position remains the same. I'm fully opposed to the Lower Thames Crossing. If I could just go back to the pier, which is the preliminary environmental information report, where it states it does not contain a standalone assessment of human health impacts. Now, I can't stress that enough. Okay. I believe it's going to be an ecological and and an environmental catastrophe, literally driving a stake through the heart of Thurrock. Okay, we constantly hear about it's coming out of the public purse, and we constantly hear about value for money. Now, I'll just finish on, when are we going to get value for health here in Thurrock, and not value for money?
Councillor Collins.
Thank you. I'd just like to add my condemnation to this act of vandalism. I can't see any thought or anything constructive in these plans. I'm totally against it, and I will oppose it implacably. Thank you.
Councillor Coxall.
Thank you very much. Listening to all this tonight, it's quite interesting, and you have to congratulate Highways England for one thing. Highways England have succeeded in getting everyone who lives, works, plays, and owns businesses like the major ports to reject this route. And all the exec representatives here tonight, both MPs, all the MEPs, I can't find an elected representative in nearly South East Essex now, that supported this. Now, that is an astonishing thing. If you look what they've done since we started this in 2006, there were some people choosing their routes, and they've made a route that actually only, I think, Essex County Council may like. Even they've got some objections now, some of their group. So, one thing they've done, I've never known yet, and I've told Highways England this in their conversations, how did you do this? Because it is an amazing thing that no one wants this route, and evidently there's something wrong with it, and they can't do that. They can't find something. Oh, maybe Brexit, they don't know as well, but I'll leave that there.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence.
I'm speaking on behalf of my residents in the Bellersville this evening who do not want this crossing. It is a bad design which will increase traffic flow, noise and more pollution. My ward will become like a toxic triangle. This crossing should be built further up the river towards Canby Island for a start. But I must say, we as councillors are giving Highways England a good fight. We're all united, and the residents and all the groups, and we will continue to scrutinise every single thing they do to get the best for our residents.
Councillor Watkins.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I won't repeat too much of what's already been said this evening. I think everyone's kind of stated how everyone is generally feeling about this, including the residents as well. And also I do plead to them as well who are in the chamber this evening, who are watching live hopefully, and who may well be watching this back at some point in time as well, just the importance of filling out that consultation and saying no to this. Members and residents alike only have to read the consultation to gauge, and I will use the word which Councillor Heron used, contempt, which Highways England have shown for Thurrock and its residents. It's not just a consultation, but it's the entire process as well. They come forward with half-baked consultations and ideas which miss out key information, breaks guidance, and does not provide results and data which should be provided, which only suggests they do not have it or do not want to share it. But the consultation shows we will do not what they're asking for it to do, which is they're saying, for example, to improve traffic management. It will do the complete opposite and make things worse. I'm sure, like everyone else, disappointed and remain disappointed by the poor consultation which Highways England have conducted. Only last week, in Corringham as an example, with their travelling van, residents had to stand in the middle of the road in order to be able to speak to representatives from Highways England. Again, that just shows nothing but pure contempt for Thurrock residents. They don't care, it seems. Madam Mayor, we have told us have said that one of the benefits of this Lower Thames Crossing is going to be to improve traffic across the borough. But again, as I stated, we know that's not going to happen. The outdated figures, outdated stats, outdated plans and outdated ideas, which do nothing but add more congestion to the roads of Thurrock and do nothing but increase the pollution levels which we're seeing, which we as a council are constantly trying to fight pollution levels and improve the traffic. So I fully support the position this council is taking. I fully thank all the members for their positions as well in fighting this, and we'll continue to fight this.
Councillor Henn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think probably when we all sat and made a couple of notes about what we might be inclined to say tonight, I think the word contempt probably was on everyone's extra book. And certainly just reflecting on my own notes, it's actually the second sentence. And the one word that keeps coming back tonight is the contempt that Highways England have levied against not just this council, but against every single resident, business, entrepreneur,
volunteer, anyone who lives and breathes in this borough, they've treated us with absolute contempt. I want to thank the authors of not just the report, but also the technical report that we're obviously submitting. I think you said professionally and politely, what a lot of us would struggle to do professionally and politely. We'd probably say it far less diplomatic in a true Thurrock sense. But you've been assertive, assuring and authoritative in the response that we are putting forward. And I levy that comment equally to the groups that have come forward tonight. Some really competent, really challenging commentaries about what's not good about this proposal. And I think it just goes back to that whole point. Yes, Thurrock's animated. Yes, sometimes we disagree. But perhaps we are more of a family than we realise. And actually, when the rows are all said and done, when the things really are hitting the fan, we do all pull together and we do all try and do the right thing. I think we are unanimous against the scheme, which is going to, if just saying it affects people and housing, it just doesn't have enough gravity to it. I mean, it's significant, and I echo on Councillor Warwell's point about the connected road. That's understandable. Let's be honest, it is understandable. We're having that frank conversation. But the whole scheme is predicated on the fact that there isn't a single benefit or connection for residents of Thurrock to use what's going to plough right through it. I mean, it's unbelievable. We've talked, myself and Madam Mayor have talked many times about COPD. This borough is well known for having challenges associated with COPD. We've seen the legacy, we've got family members that have grown up with it, and we want to try and prevent more. There's been no adequate assessment of that in this process, and again, that's well documented in this. It's completely, severely impacting our future landscape and viability of our borough. We've often talked as members about our own children and our children's children wanting to live in the borough, with mum, dad or guardian along with them in the borough. This completely rips a great big line through any such plan. And I think it was Councillor John Kent that talked earlier about dividing Thurrock into two communities. He's absolutely right. This is going to be a Thurrockised Berlin Wall if we're not careful. I'm sorry to use that expression, but it's true. If we're not careful, there will be a dividing line through the heart of this borough. And we've done a lot to bring us all together. What's particularly galling, I will add, is that it pays scant regard to our heritage and identity. Coldhouse Hall, just wrapping up Madam Mayor, scant regard, we'll skirt around that issue. The issues and options haven't been in public. It may be a Quango Highways England, but it's accountable to the people, and I don't understand why they hold us in that contempt. And as for the red line change that they did, without any regard to extending the deadline, moving the goalpost like they did, is scantily outrageous. Madam Mayor, you're drawing me to a close. I don't think Highways England can, should, I hope they won't, ignore everything that's said tonight, not just the emotive stuff, but principally the technical piece. I think that's everything I've got to say, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Hare. I'd like to go back to Councillor Peter Smith. On behalf of the Lower Thames Crossing Task Force, would you like to have a final sum up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it's great that in Chamber great minds think alike. Most of the issues that have been spoken about this evening go round and round and round. And we just have got to congratulate our officers and the teams for this very detailed report and getting all of our bits, our wishes into the response. And there is some more bits to add. Additionally, Councillor Cottrell mentioned Essex County councillors, were against this. And just 2 days ago, I received emails from some Essex County councillors with their concerns for us, and these are in the north of the borough. It's quite right, it's not NIMBYism, we've got 3 crossings already, we don't need another, and this is just the wrong crossing in the wrong place. I don't really think there's any much more I need to add. I think everything has pretty much been summarised tonight. But I'd just like to finally end on, Madam Mayor, if and when the time is right, and if the legal advice of our teams are that we go to judicial review, that we just do that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gledger, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to echo words that have already been said this evening, thanking officers, members alike, and indeed members of the task force, who not only those that have turned up here today to speak, but those that fed in all the way through, for the residents and the businesses in Thurrock taking part in this and making their voice heard. On the whole, obviously everything that's been said here is spot on. I'll sum up a few things. I don't quite actually agree fully with the response about Thurrock fiddling whilst it burns, irrespective of whether it's Councillor Kemp who was leader or myself. We've been united in this. We have put hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of money into fighting this. We've made resources available, we've made time available, and that will continue. Laura, again, I'd like to thank you for the conversations we've had and everything that you've said tonight. Literally the words of us all. It's absolutely fantastic. The ports, again, all the fuel that comes into Thurrock, the food, the papers that many people will read about this, be printed on tomorrow, all comes through the ports in Thurrock. Yet they're not going to be held to serve by this disastrous plan. Councillor Kerry, again, spot on. Indeed, I could go through a list of every single member here and say spot on, spot on, spot on. There was nothing in here that we heard tonight that I can disagree with.
For that debate this evening, I'm going to now move on to voting on the recommendations. Are all members in agreement with the recommendations in the report? Agreed.